Hello, my dear gardeners. It's time for the garden tour again. Right now we're in the middle of May. My garden is very green and lush, and the anticipation for rose blooms is big this year. I think we will have a good season for blooms. And let's begin our garden tour from the front of the house, where flowers are always blooming on my house. If you're new to my channel or my garden, you will know in a minute what I mean. Let's begin. This is the front of my house. And flowers are blooming, as you can see. I hand painted them. They're very Ukrainian. In case you would like to see how I did it, here's the video. And this season is very unusual for me, for the garden, because I had to take 4 weeks off from caring for the garden. My father died in Ukraine and I had to travel to support my family and be there for the funeral. I had a very good trip. And because I have a lot of perennials in the garden, which are taking care after themselves, not many annuals, garden is thriving. So let's start with the front border here. This border was grass when we moved into our house many years ago, and we installed tall perennials. You can see here we have mop head hydrangeas. Last year we lost most of hydrangea blooms. We had very strange cold spell, warm and then cold spell in the middle of February. But this year I look at all the tops of all the stems, and each one on hydrangea, on this mop head hydrangea, has a future bloom. How exciting! So we rely heavily on this flower border on our hydrangeas. We have two types here. We have 4 mop head hydrangeas, and another one is smooth leaf hydrangea, which is flowering in pink. Because I was traveling, not paying attention to the garden, I was not here in the garden, this hydrangea was not trimmed well, and it has kind of semi-wild appearance. Maybe it will get a lot of blooms, but they will be smaller ones. Some more of blue flax. I just can't have enough of these cheerful blooms. It's considered short-lived perennial. It flowers very well first year. Not first year, actually, it only grows. It's green foliage. Next year it blossoms well. And then a year after that, it is turning into something like this. Very woody stem at the bottom. So I make sure I collect all the seeds and I spread them around the garden. Baptisia here, very small size, since it's semi-shade here and Baptisia loves sun. But you know what? I'm looking at it here and I don't mind that gentle growth, like a woodland growth. Our trees, our maple trees, which are considered very hungry trees, are maturing very quickly here. We had to do some heavy trimming this year. I got a lot of wood from it. But these trees are turning our front of the house into a very shady area. And I cannot be a stubborn gardener, you know. I have to adjust. So eventually all my roses, which are prettily growing in front of my window, they probably have to be moved, because they do get afternoon sun here, and then the evening sun is shaded by the canopy of the trees. And unfortunately, the canopy is becoming bigger and bigger, moving closer and closer to the house. Oh well. Let's go and see what's happening right here to the side, where I have 2 raised beds. Well, I missed, because I traveled, I wasn't here, I missed the planting time. So 2 vegetable raised beds. One is heavily occupied by sage, which is getting ready to bloom. And another side is mint spreading happily. I'm very proud of this bush. It is black currant. And I planted it several years ago. Look at this. Look at these currants growing. I know black currant is not very popular in the United States because it was forbidden for so many years. And there is still a ban on growing black currants in some states, not in Connecticut. I grew up with black currants. My grandmother had probably, oh my gosh, 20, 30 blackcurrant bushes in her garden. So I'm used to all sorts of jams and pies. And this one is red currant. And they're slightly different. Let me show you. Look at the berries. They're going to get all red. And surprisingly, birds are not going for them. I don't know why. Maybe they're too big or they're too low to the ground. Well, it makes me happy. Parsley is bolting. This is second year for the parsley. They are ready to create seeds. We're still harvesting them and enjoying their healthy foliage. Now, the plan for this raised bed was to plant all sorts of things, but because I just came home, this area is still bare. Oh, there is a black butterfly sitting. Oh, look at him. Look how beautiful he is. Let's see if I can catch a glimpse of him. Oh no, he flew away. I want to show you one little, it's a small tree or a shrub. It is chokeberry. I planted it last year. I made sure people are paying attention in my garden that this is something special. It's not a weed. I grew up with chokeberries too. They are very sharp, very, I would say sharp tasting berries. Very good for you though. And I look forward to have this little plant as a fairly tall shrub here. It is very sunny here together with lilies. I think chokeberry will do very well here on this side. All right, let's go to the back of my garden, actually to the side. Because of our tree here, we have a lot of fallen blossom foliage here. So, Adelaide d'Orleans. This year would be its, I believe, second year in the garden. And last year we had only several blossoms, but this year maybe we are ready for some serious show here. What do you think? Adelaide d'Orleans doesn't have especially beautiful flower, but it is famous for taking the show with many blooms. So it is still with a temporary support. I will get to it, you know. I will get to it. Peonies are growing. We inherited these peonies with the house, and despite the shade and despite kind of tough, dry conditions here, peonies are thriving, and they are in a different location originally. They were slightly to the right, and now with years they are moving towards the sun. Interesting how plants can travel, you know. Okay, let's look at the foam flower, having its quiet time here. I think she likes it here, with gentle white foliage. These begonias here, this one is winter glut, never bloomed this year. I have a feeling that I have to move them to a sunnier location. They can tolerate semi-shade. I have a feeling that it is too shady here, and there are 3 of them. The one definitely needs to be moved. It's right here. Yeah, and it is struggling. Oh, it bloomed actually. Oh my gosh, in this shade, it actually bloomed and I missed it. Oh, next year I'm going to move her. She's very small here, covered with bleeding hearts. Ajuga is marvelous this time of the year. It produces nice, tall stems of blossoms. which are keeping their show for quite a long time. And then it is ready to spread. Look at this happy growth. Jacob's ladder. When I just came back home 1 week ago, it was blooming so happily. Now it's setting its seeds. Still there are flowers here and there. I love this color in the garden. Hostas do need to be cleaned. When I don't clean hostas, those leaves, they get to be waterlogged and they get damaged. So this is one of the jobs for the spring garden. And the passage, almost closed passage, brings us to the back. This azalea is in the shade. Most of my azaleas finished their blossom season, but this one, since it is in the shade, it is still producing happy blossoms. Excuse the appearance of the garden. I didn't get to the cleaning of this area yet. What do we have here around the corner? Oh, a little quiet raised bed with dead nettle. It is going to bloom soon. I like how it's spilling. You know, it's a runner, so I have to control it. Always pulling out the unwanted runners, trying to spill out, like right here, you see. The happy volunteer is invading our garden on another side. Oh my gosh, look at my thyme. I never cleaned it up from leaves, and I have a feeling thyme does so much better when it is cleaned. All right, this guy is going to get the first dib on maintenance later today. Irises are happily blooming here. They got more sun because I trimmed all the shrubbery at the back. It doesn't really look very attractive. I'm hoping it will catch up the foliage. Oh gosh, irises never got the cleanup, as you can see. I will get to it again, you know. Now here we have the arch, which is being taken almost down by honeysuckle. At the beginning of May, I was planning to trim this honeysuckle really well. Again, didn't have a chance. I wanted to have bare legs and then have this big nice canopy of blooms at the top. I can still do it, I think. And on another side, I planted clematis, and they love it here. They're just facing the sun. Again, sorry for the appearance. This looks like it is falling apart. I have to get to it. And when we go through the arch, we will see the back of the garden. It is green and lush. My handmade garden structures are standing. Survived 2 winters already, I believe. And going for the 3rd season. Not bad for the dry wood in the garden. This area needs maintenance too. New fence needs to be built. You know what happened this year? I never got to my butterfly bush. I never trimmed it. We are in trouble this year. My butterfly bush might fall and open in the middle. I think it is too late to do any severe trimming. I will just clean it up here and there. The back looks really well. Here, this is this room. Boxwoods need to be trimmed. They're growing happily, maturing well. Every year I trim a barberry bush here once a year. Look at this. It's taking over my pathway, which was not cleaned also. Oh my gosh, so much work. But it's all good stuff, right? Wattle fence with ivy. Ivy's getting acclimated to a new home here, vertical home, starting to feel comfortable. Let's go and see what's happening near my main arch, right here. I planted two New Dawn roses. One was own root and one was grafted on both sides. And this year they're ready to bloom. Look at the growth. I like it. It's somewhat slow, you know, it's not as fast as I expected. My arch, which I built myself, here's the video how I did it, is standing strong. The twigs on top are getting old slightly, but still, you know, still going, still creating the design. Boxwoods are all lush and rosebuds. Oh, look at those. This is Parfuma Rose, Cordes Rose. Rosebuds are getting ready. I love it. A new bird house. And look at all the mess here underneath. Oh, busy birds. I wonder why they don't collect all that stuff and bring it back into the house, you know? Whatever falls, they just disregard it. Now I have to clean it up. Oh well. Clematis. A very good design here, I consider. I made this wattle ring, and you don't see anything what's happening inside. Very lovely, and a lot of things are happening there. I put all the grass cuttings there, and I put ashes there. Grass cuttings are good when you don't have artificial fertilizers and weed killers. This is gooseberry. Look at the gooseberries. And the good thing is they're so big that birds cannot swallow them. So we are for the season of gooseberries here. Lovely, lovely. Oh, I didn't put water into the water basin for birds. I'm going to do it after this video. And my beautiful azalea at the back just held its blooms for my comeback, and now it went into its quiet stage. Well, at least I enjoyed azalea blooms for a day or two, and then the blooms started to change. Let's see what is happening at the back side of my garden. Oh, by the way, here is the pathway which I installed here last year. And ajuga, you see, I planted ajuga here between the stones. It is doing well. It's slightly weedy here. I see maple tree growing there. I replanted these boxwoods. Another thing what I missed this year, the boxwood maintenance. I had to spray it with horticultural or neem oil 2 weeks ago. I missed it. Oh, I'm going to pay it next year. Oh well, what can you do? But ajuga is happy colonizing these crevices near the stones. Here's a video how I did it. And we have a slight misfortune. I consider it a small misfortune to have a bird nest right here over this path. So we have bird poops here on a regular basis, which is fine. Let's go and look at the back, at our sitting area. The back porch is delayed in its flower development. My youngest son was in charge of taking care of the garden, and he did a marvelous job. Look at these seedlings. They lived through my absence. He fertilized them, he took care after them, and now they're ready to be acclimated to outside and be happily planted out. So I have three different, what do I have here? I have three different varieties of annuals and perennials. This is Zinnia, Profusion White. It will go to the back of the garden. Then we have, what do we have? Verbena, Vanity. Oh yes, this verbena, they're saying that this verbena is not as floppy as the other verbena in my garden. So I am raising it from the seeds to see how it goes. And this one is Salvia Victoria White. So they're getting acclimated here to the wind and the sun. This is its, they are probably third day. I'm going to bring them inside soon. And unfortunately, a lot of pots are bare still. I didn't get to the planting. But roses, oh, my roses. They're going to be blooming so well this year. Last year was not a good rose blooming season. I have a feeling because of that severe weather change in February, we lost a lot of rose buds. And some other gardeners were telling me that roses did not bloom for them as well. But this year, this is Lady of Shalott, my darling. And look at all the buds. Oh, she is happy here. Look at all the buds. They're going to probably open maybe in a week and a half. So maybe in 2 weeks we will have beautiful, lush bloom season. And another surprise for this area would be this rose. The Katrina rose. Katrina rose was planted here. It was a gift from one of the viewers, and it was planted as a small little baby. I figured out why this rose is struggling every year with black spot at the beginning of the season, because sun is not high enough on the side of my garden here, on the side of the house, so it doesn't reach this rose early in the morning. And then it comes in stronger, and rose is getting back into his nice, strong, flourishing mood. But in spring, it suffers. So I figured out what is the culprit. And look at all the buds. Oh my gosh, this year is going to be gorgeous here. This is going to be the first year of somewhat strong performance of this rose. And I train it on the arch, which I built myself. By the way, here's a video how I did it. The base of the arch is made out of treated wood, so I wouldn't have any issues of longevity of this support. And then on top I had this very light and finicky looking design from usual twigs. Again, never underestimate the importance of twigs in the garden, right? And look how I trained this rose. Very narrow, for it to have a lot of air space at the back. Air circulation is important. And this year, oh boy, this rose is going to show its blooms for the first time. Next to the rose, under the window, last year I made the shelf, and on that shelf I put sedum. Didn't trim it yet, you see, never got back to the old stems. Sedum is quite happy here, and it's going to delight us with blooms at the end of summer. I'm quite happy with the foliage there. It looks really good. The shelf stood through the winter, and sedum was quite happy to overwinter. And look at this. This is the generous gardener. The beauty of blooms, I think this year would be outstanding. There are so many buds on this rose right now. And what I did with this rose last year, I trained extra stems from the middle. You see, the middle, there is an arch in the middle. So I trained those stems. I took some stems from the arch and I trained them to go to the side, this way and that way. And I probably took too many of stems. So my rose was bare in the middle, which didn't look very well. But this year, there are buds in the front, there are buds to the side, and many of them. Oh, I will keep you posted on all the blooms. That is going to be some celebration to witness all the blooms here. Ooh, look forward to that. At the base of the rose, you see where I put my support, wooden support in. I couldn't figure out what to do with that hole, extra hole, so I put a juga plants there. And look at them. They produce their blooms and ready to spread. Better than just to have a hole there. All right, let's go to the front, to another side of my driveway, and there would be some interesting plants to show you too. On one side of our driveway, we have a car there, right? We have phlox plants as a ground cover. I introduced it here. And the thought was not to use the grass, and it didn't work here. Unfortunately, this year I missed its beautiful blooms. Only several were saved for my coming, which is fine because I appreciate this plant for its foliage. It is staying semi-green in winter and keeping these edges very well on one side of the driveway. And when you look on another side, you will see the same situation. But here under another maple tree, we have mophead hydrangea, hugged by phlox. Here we have a little bit more of blooms. And surprisingly, this hydrangea was touched by the frost. And look what I mean. When you look at the top buds, you see this bud is kind of dead, so there are not going to be any blooms here. So what the hydrangea did, on the side shoots, there are no blooms here either. But on this one, which was hidden probably in the foliage, you see, the future blooms are there. And the same happened here. The top bud is damaged. Oh, well, microclimate, right? On one side, hydrangeas are totally saved from the frost, and on another, the frost got to them. Looks like my garden survived my absence all right. My husband was taking care of the grass, was mowing it. My son was raising the seedlings and taking care of the new plants around the garden. And now we are expecting the new blooms on roses. I will keep you posted on that beautiful show. Please do subscribe and like this video, and I will see you around. As always, happy gardening!